Welcome everybody, I have another chilled video for you today since New Year is approaching and it's holiday, everybody's relaxing, we don't want to do anything too stressful. So today I'm gonna be exploring Spring Boot or Boot Spring, basically ASP.NET Core but in Java. So grab a cup of tea, relax, and we're just gonna make sure that we as .NET developers have made the right career choice by staying out of Java and sticking with C#. We're going to be setting everything up from scratch. You know, I love authentication, so we're going to take a look at that story. So let's go ahead and see. What would our lives look like if we were Spring Boot developers? JetBrains recently gave me old products back, so I'm just going to go ahead and spoil myself. IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, let's go. While that's happening, let's go ahead and Google the Get Started page. You know, how do you actually work this thing? We got the quick start guide and start a new Spring Boot project used to create a web project, an online project template builder. Build it up to be a to-do application. I'm just laughing about the Java versions. So they go 8, 11, 17, and 19. You know, you think we got it bad in ASP.NET Core. I don't know what kind of teleportation is happening here, but you know, I will take latest and greatest. Project is downloaded, IDEA is downloaded. Let's go ahead and see. And look at this, installing Oracle OpenJDK 19.01 on the correct architecture. The IDE is doing all the hard work for me. God bless. Didn't take too long, everything finished setting up. I know that build.gradle will be my CS project file, so if I'm going to be adding, I don't know, some kind of ORM to interact with the database, that is where I'm going to be putting it. Most of us are going to be more interested what is going to be in essentially our main application. And this looks pretty empty. Let's run it. So I ran this and nothing has happened. I mean, the logs look really pretty, but I don't have any URL output or anything like that. I guess the application just finished. Coming back to the quick start, let's go ahead and grab this get mapping and see what happens if we place it on here. And I guess we also want this to be a REST controller. I'll place this over here. Okay, I was struggling to import, but I pressed something there and now everything is importing. So I'm not exactly sure what happened, but look at that. We got some request parameters. Let's go ahead and remove that. I'm not too interested in that. The string format, don't care. Let's just have a hello world and we will have it from the root path. Okay, let's run that. We got port 8080, so let's go ahead and say localhost 8080. And there we have it, hello world, not bad, okay. So let's go ahead and see what else we have. A bunch of triads, hello world, okay. Not that important, I'm basically going to go ahead and scour around for the authentication bits. Okay, battle tested security, let's try that. This sample is using some crazy MVC setup, I'm hoping I can do without it. And looks like I need to add some dependencies. The bottom one is for testing, so I'm just gonna grab the two ones that are not for testing and hope for the best. Push all the test stuff downstairs and let's get rid of this comment. We're gonna stop the application and load Gradle changes. And then there is the web security config. Let me just do a quick deviation here and make sure that there is no authentication for REST APIs specifically. Man, if you think ASP.NET Core authentication blogs and videos are bad, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of good information in here, but that is ridiculous. Let's get the web security config and create that. Paste everything across. You know, when you want to know what permit all means and it tells you that it's the equivalent of invoking permit all true. That is very nice. Thank you for that. And then you got some bean. What the fuck is a bean? This is ridiculous. Java people must be furious. In Spring, the objects that form the backbone of your application and that are managed by the Spring IOC container are called beans. Bean is an object that is instantiated, assembled, and otherwise managed by a Spring IOC container. So how can we put the bean on the method? Is that like factories for the bean? I'm reading the blog and I don't really understand it. This bean, however, basically tells me that this is a factory function for this service. Let's go ahead and tweak this a little bit. We're gonna try to authenticate a secret route right over here. I'm not gonna touch anything else and I'm just gonna add a secret route somewhere here and see how that goes. Okay, restart the application. Okay, so refreshing the root is no problem and secret gives me the secret information. I must have missed something. So this is secret, I can reach and I cannot reach root. These are the requests that I want to permit. Okay, so I'm gonna permit just the slash. So if we match this request permit all, any request authenticated, I don't understand. It seems like we are first configuring routes and then we're going back to configuring other routes. I think that's the case. Let's come back over here. Refreshing this, we don't get hot module replacement. Let's see if there's anything like that there. Okay, this looks awfully complicated compared to just running .NET Watch Run for development, so I'm just gonna go ahead and restart it manually. Coming back here, okay, secret redirects to login, and hello world, we can reach it. Cool. Now, how do we authenticate? I'm reading through this sample and there is more magic than a Houdini show. Like, you got the logout page over here. It's never registered with MVC, so I don't know where this logout route is coming from. Then you got this login page, the backend logic. Like, it seems to be configuring the form for this login page, but I don't even know what kind of parameters are being passed into. You know, like, we are sending username and password, but how do we know that that's what it's model binding to, essentially? Look at that. Java is an advanced language. I'm just going to copy everything that they had over there and see, you know, if it just works. I'm going to remove all of this malarkey over here. The rest, I think, should work. Let's see if we get a cookie in the browser, right? So I got user and password. I'm going to open up the network tab, sign in. What happened over here? We posted. These are not the cookies I'm looking for. Let's actually just clear all of this gunk and let's try again. User and password. Okay, so looks like it's setting a JSession ID over here, so we should have that in the application. Does it automatically go to secret then? No, I'm still unauthenticated. Does it attach the cookie to the secret route? And it does. So why doesn't it work? Okay, after some reading, I think I am, authenticating the submission page. So there is a login process URL. So I'm just gonna create a login PRC, and this is where I will submit the form. So to the application, this is where I'm gonna be submitting it. And if this still redirects me, well, then back to reading. Let's restart. Okay, let's navigate to secret, user password. This is going to submit it to login PRC. And this still redirects me to login. I have a feeling I configured this incorrectly. Okay, so I managed to reach the secret page. I disabled cross-site request forgery, which isn't really good, and I also put this here. So let's just double check which option actually hit it. Okay, so it looks like the cross-site request forgery is the thing that stops it. I guess if I want a cross-site reference token, I have to be using MVC or something. So I guess for now, for what I needed, this is okay. I've heard legends of Spring authentication only requiring one-liner for cookie authentication, and I'll tell you right now, this is not it, boys. ASP.NET Core, way better. Next step would be to save something in the database, right? So let's see how that works. Spring PostgreSQL. Get a bunch of these open. It's like I want an iPhone here. Look at the state of this. Who's actually programming in this, man? Come on. Got this org PostgreSQL. Look for Gradle repository or Maven repository or whatever. Look for org Postgres. So this JDBC driver. Let's get that. You know what we're talking about. Latest, greatest. Let's do Gradle. Grab this. Whack this in here. Reload. Let's stop our application. Back to the tutorial. Configure properties. I can do that. I think for me, password is password. If not, I'm going to change it later, but that should be it. Let me just double check that my PostgreSQL is running. And it is. We'll just create database just to be sure. There's a semicolon on the end. We gotta define our data model. Import all. Let's grab this. Obviously, we're doing a to-do app. And let's give this a go. So package models, you know, this MVC style, new Java class, to do. Looks like I'm missing JavaX persistence. Let's see what that is. Stumbled on another official tutorial. Let's go. So that blog and the repository was full of shit. IntelliJ is carrying me here. It's just basically saying, here is the data. This is where you want to get it from, you dummy. Go ahead and install it. Okay, so I finally managed to create the model with all the getters and setters. This is how it looks like. I had to add this Spring Boot Starter Data GPA. I don't know what it is. It doesn't sound like, you know, an entity framework package to me. Let's go ahead and see if we can, you know, store something in a database or something like that. Okay, so I think this is the first time things are about to get good. Basically, it looks like the repository here will just be automatically generated. So let's create a new class. This is going to be to do a repo. We're just gonna whack this in here. To do a repo is gonna be this thing. Let's get rid of going to be a to do CRUD repository import. To do by long ID, I'm using long, so that is the key. Here we want to be able to list them, and I'll just call this list, or let's call them all. Again, seems like there is a lot of magic here. Like, how does it know how to query and what and where? Like, what is going on? Create a seed endpoint where I can get my to-do repo and seed a bunch of to-dos. Looking at how this is used in this other blog, let's go ahead and change this around. So to-do repo seems to be injected or assigned this way, auto-wired. And let's also add an endpoint for listing to-dos. And the way he does it, or she, I'm not exactly sure who is the author, you predefine a list and then find all seems to be a function that is already present on the repository. There we go, a bunch of to-dos. This is how you pass function pointers rather than just .add. You do this double colon. I think this is from C++ land. But yeah, let's go ahead and see if can we just return to-dos from here. Make sure we change the type. Like everything compiles, let's go. And it crashes. Looks like unsatisfied dependency to-do repo. Error creating bean with name to-do repo defined and da-da-da-da-da. Looks like it has to do something with the methods that I've defined. So I don't know what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and get rid of these ones over there. So this is a CRUD repository. Also, one is using CRUD repository. This one, which is showing it with Postgres, is using, if I can find it, a JBA repository. I don't know. Let's whack this on here. JBA repository. Do I have this? I have it. Let's go ahead and try running this. Looks like that is working. Let's go ahead and hit home. List. Where was it? Just there. Am I even hitting the correct routes? Okay, so this is list. I am being redirected here. So let's use our password. Okay, and there is nothing there. So let's do seed. This gave me secret info because that's what it does. Let's try list again. Oh, we got data actually in the database. Where is it? Relations to-do sequence. Select all from to-do. Not a single migration in sight, and it just created this. I mean, C# developers would kill for these, right? This is crazy. Okay, that is redonkulous. You know, not a single link query inside, not a single DB context configuration. You know, you just say, where was it? Here is my connection string. Here is my interface. I guess the implementation is you know, spawned automatically or generated automatically. But yeah, not a single query that you need to do. It just does everything on its own. And what is it? It's storing the data. I'm gonna have to be honest here. This is way better than Entity Framework Core. I've obviously didn't try to use it in a, you know, a super customizable way, but no migrations and no hassle with trying to write some crazy link expressions. You're just getting all the data and returning it. I'd say the authentication story, I might be doing something wrong, but authentication is pretty shit right now. In terms of the reading material, everything is crap. If you're doing Java and you're you know, a Spring developer and you can do very minimalistic setup, in-depth detail explanations, I mean, you're just gonna rip through this because this learning material is horrific. I mean, there is a lot of it, but from what I've seen so far, it's not good. As for the repository, let's actually see what we can do in terms of like a many-to-many relationship. Let's see how it handles that. Okay, so the example that I stumbled upon is student and course, and you're just sprinkling a many-to-many relationship. So let's go ahead and add these models. Okay, got them in. Let's just generate all the other stuff. Okay, then the owner has to configure how the linker table looks like. So student who is liking courses, have to say that this is a course like. And then we have the two foreign keys. So these are going to be the properties or the columns in the linker table. And this is the receiving side on the course. And that links back to liked courses. Okay, I'm not sure why it doesn't specify the name over here, but I guess, you know, Spring is already doing so much magic. And I think that's it. The rest of it maybe just more configuration, which or other variations, but this is the basic one. So let's see if I can do a, not a to-do repo, but you know, a student repo or something like that. So student repo, haven't made it public, and I guess I'll need public course as well. Let's get that into the controller. So auto wired, have this student repo. Let's get all the two methods that we have here. So seed std students, not the disease, or you know, the students are basically that, and list std as well. So list std student repo. Okay, this one took me like 3 years, but you know, I'm there. Let's do the same for the list. Okay, I think that's it. Let's restart. Curious at which point does it create all of the tables. So let's list relations, and it just does it, and the course like is there. So it does it all on startup. This very much reminds me of Martin, which if you're a C# developer and you haven't tried MartinDB yet, what are you doing? Why are you still using AF Core? Go try MartinDB, man. Let's see these students. I need to re-log in. Looks like an exception has happened. Let's see if there is anything in here that we can get a hint on what is going wrong. Unable to find course with ID 1. Not sure what that is. Okay, so I think I've, you know, messed up the IDs over here, but let's give this a restart and let's try to reseed. Let's double check that it actually hasn't put it in the data, like a partial failure during saving it to the database. Select all from student, nothing is in there, and nothing in course. Okay, let's give this a refresh again. The signing in story, I mean, authentication really isn't impressing me. The ORM bit is really impressing me. So let's try do this. We're gonna save them as we're going along, and I guess I will need another repository. So let's get another repository before we do this. This course repository created. Let's dependency injected. I don't know. This looks weird. Save C1 and C2. Refresh. Sign in and we're seeing secret info. So what about list std? That's not a correct route. That's not a correct route either. I'm guessing it's case sensitive. Does not look correct to me. Let's take a look at the terminal. What do we have in courses? So we have 2 things in courses and we have 1 thing in students. What about course alike? Okay, so we have 2 links. I'm guessing what we're seeing over here is an infinite JSON serialization. So let's see if we can get a projection going. Interface-based projections. So for an entity, you define a thing and it automatically creates an object and populates it. So you just get getters or have getters? What is this? Okay, so after a while, this is what I got. Student course like projection. You just basically map it to the properties. Same with the course like project that I got over here. What it says to do is you just go to your repository and you just whack it on here. We're gonna find by ID and holy camole, what is going on here? Just stop here. Actually by ID, long ID, and I'm just gonna query for one of these, okay? Come back to the application. I know I'm listing over here, and what did the actual route parameter story look like? Request param long ID. Let's put this one here. I think I'll just call it std this one, and this is going to be get to do just get to do std. We'll go to the student repo. We're gonna find one by ID. Why is it going over here? Long ID. I thought I saw a list there, but I did see a list there. Student find by ID, find all by ID. Okay, so find by ID. This should be just a student projection. Let's get this type over here. Okay, restart. Moment of truth. std ID 1. Obviously unauthenticated. Password. Looks like we're getting an error. What is going on? Getting some ridiculous error. Let's make sure that I haven't messed up the tutorial here. I think the naming convention is view. Okay, so let's rename this to student view. Same for course like proj, course view. Restart and try again. Again, ridiculous error. I'm gonna give this one more try. I can't believe that worked. Okay, so what I actually did is I renamed find by ID to find student by ID. Okay, so let's wrap this up. What do I think about Spring Boot as a .NET developer? So first point to the ORM, I would say that whatever they have going on here, it seems way better than Entity Framework Core. Seems like I would just have to do a lot less boilerplate code. But in case I need a complex query, how is that going to look like? I'm not exactly sure. Maybe you can execute custom SQL, but once you need to do complex queries in Entity Framework Core, it's a big mess as well. Now, comparing Spring to ASP.NET Core as a web framework, again, Spring is just a lot of magic. You define these beans. I mean, I registered repositories. It's not like I actually had to register it with an IOC container. They're just available and they get assigned as private fields onto classes. Yeah, I don't exactly know how this stuff gets injected. I don't know the lifetime of my services. Everything's a little bit obscure. I guess you will need to dig a little bit under the hood. So I would say that the learning curve of Spring because of this is going to be like exponential or very, very steep at least. But in all, it's just MVC controllers and you're going to create a class, you're going to have some endpoints on there, they're going to call some services. I mean, end of story pretty much. As for authentication in Spring Boot, I really didn't like it. I don't know what it is about it. It's maybe that how you define controllers or endpoints where you log in and log out. It's not an actual endpoint where you are triggering functionality under the hood. Maybe some people will like it. It was not the one-liner I heard it to be, so maybe that's why I got disappointed. I was expecting something a little bit more easier. I think no matter which framework you would use, there would be some struggles with one and the other one. I personally do not enjoy the amount of magic that is going on in Spring, so for that one reason, I will already say that ASP.NET Core is the pick for me. From my experience, as soon as you get to these niche use cases, magic falls apart and you just end up fighting against the magic or configuring it in some crazy way rather than it helping you. But for simple things, yeah, magic is good. I would use it every single day. Nevertheless, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or you want me to review any other frameworks, go ahead, leave a comment. Better yet, come support me on my Patreon. Very, very big thank you to all of my patrons that are already supporting me. Your help is very much appreciated, and hope you all have a great new year.